Commanders head coach Ron Rivera is feeling the frustration after losing 3 straight. We preview how Washington can turn things around against the Titans. Plus, Jamin Davis is off to a strong start to his second NFL season. Logan Paulsen goes inside the film room to show you where he's making his improvements on the field. And with Derrick Henry and the Titans rushing attack coming to town this weekend, we hit the practice field with our field pass to see how Washington is preparing for Sunday's game.
A lot of things that I do is not dictated to me by what's out there on social media. I like to believe I'm responsible, and I understand enough to know, though, that the fans are going to be frustrated. I don't doubt that. I really don't. I understand the history of what's gone on here for a while. But let's just be realistic about it. I get it. I understand it, and we're going to keep playing hard.
And with that, we welcome you into Command Center. Julie Donaldson here with you alongside. I have London Fletcher and Santana Moss here with me. Look, there's a lot of frustration on every single front. Of course, the fan base was expecting so much more from the team this season, as were the players, the coaching, the front office, all around. This has not been the start that they wanted. So you can tell people a little bit on in London.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand Ron's frustration. You go back and you watch the film against the Dallas Cowboys, and there were plays or opportunities to make some big plays, and when it doesn't happen and you lose a ball game like that, a very winnable ball game, the frustration is going to rise, and I understand it completely.
Yeah, just to piggyback a little bit off of what London is talking about, the coaches see it. They see the potential in the players. They see the guys are making plays, and it's a play two here and there where you shoot yourself in the foot, and then you find all that success or all that momentum that you was able to establish is now a wash. So that's where the frustration comes from, because he expect a little better output from these guys.
I mean, we've gone through it. There's just little misses here and there, a decision made differently, a block made, and look, it's not making any excuses, because obviously they are not doing that to have a different record, but they do believe that they are close. Let's hope that gets going Sunday. So let's get to the matchup that we have coming up here. It's going to be a look back here. Let's look back at the win column at FedEx Field when they last had the Tennessee Titans in town. A lot of focus will be on the ground game on Sunday. The Titans, they were 5th in rushing last season, coming off a season-high 127 rushing yards in Sunday's win over the Colts. Tennessee is 2-0 this season when it has 100 or more rushing yards, and 0-2 when held under 100 rushing yards. So one of the positives, if we're going to talk about how Washington can get advantage in this game, is, well, their run defense has been pretty stout. Teams have not been able to run on them. They've held them to under 75 rushing yards per game in the last 2 weeks, and these are teams that have had really strong, dominant running attacks. So what has been the key for Santana, their rushing defense, that has allowed them to have some success there?
Well, I know London can probably piggyback off of me with this one, but one of the things that stands out to me is just these guys are, paying close attention to detail and doing their assignment. I remember a couple of weeks ago, we was just talking. I was asking London, like, man, what is it? Who's supposed to be in this gap? Who's supposed to be in this lane? And you can see it showing up now on film. So that's one of the things that stands out to me. And London just kind of, gave me a couple of examples of that when we watched film a minute ago.
It's a situation, Julie, where you have guys being exactly where they're supposed to be in their gaps. And not only are they in their gaps, they're physical when they're in those gaps and playing, getting off blocks, making plays. I think the scheme and the comfort having Cam Curl has definitely helped in the run defense. But guys are understanding their responsibility. They're playing with a greater sense of urgency, a greater intensity, a greater physicality, and at times they're just whooping somebody's ass.
Yeah, straight up and down.
Well, they're going to have to do that against Derrick Henry on Sunday. Man, he is just a very powerful running back, and they relied a lot on him. He's kind of like their number one go-to guy when it comes to their offense. 6'3", 247 pounds. London, what's the challenge of trying to stop him?
The challenge is you're going to have to do it over and over and over again. He's the focal point of their offense, and they're going to give him the football. They want to give him the ball 25, 30 times a game, and they'll also give him the ball in the passing game. So you have to be cognizant of that, not lose track of it, whether it's throwing screens to him or check downs. You have to be prepared of a heavy dose of Derrick Henry in this ball game.
And Santana, if we look at maybe a weakness of their team, it's their pass defense. They have allowed 10 passing touchdowns, tied for the most in the NFL this season. Does that give you a little bit of hope to say, okay, the passing game for Washington has struggled as of lately, but you should have some opportunities to maybe get that going in this one?
It gives you a little, hope or a sign of relief that maybe we can be effective in this area, but you don't want to be too pass happy. I think you want to go out there with a balanced game or a balanced attack and say, hey, we're going to take advantage of our run game. And knowing that we have this run game, now that will set up the play action, and that would bring them linebackers up in those times when we need to get behind them in the passing game. So I don't think you go out there with one of these, let's just throw the ball 30, 40 times, but have a balanced attack and try to take advantage of both areas.
When you touched on the play action part of it. That's something we have to be, cognizant of, or also aware of on our side when we're defending. We can't get so caught up on the run action or stopping Derrick Henry that we're opening up windows. We're not getting as much pass rush. And they got a couple players in there at the receiving court that can make plays too. So we have to be on guard for that as well.
Their big rookie receiver, though, is their kind of like their guy to take the top off the defense. He is out with injury, turf toe, so maybe a little bit break there for them in the passing game. So the Commanders' second-year linebacker, Jamin Davis, well, he's off to a strong start this year. In 4 games, he has already recorded 3 sacks, surpassing last season's total of 1. One of the biggest improvements in his game has to be the adjustments he's been able to make in-game. To show you what we're talking about here, we're going to send it over to Logan Paulsen in the film room.
Thanks, Julie. All right, we're going to take a quick look today in our Deep Dive Wednesdays and take a look at Jamin Davis, our guy right here, and some things that he struggled with and how he improved in game, which gets you excited for the young football player. So this is the play that everyone remembers. They're going to motion across the formation here, get into like a nice bunch look here with CeeDee Lamb, and this is tough because it challenges rules. One thing I think in this coverage, Jamin has to reroute number 2, right? Number 1 being the outside guy, number 2 being the inside guy. So watch Jamin dutifully kind of pushing towards the tight end here to get hands on and reroute number 2, right? Dallas knows this. They understand this. When they get into this stack alignment here, it's tough now because who's number 1, who's number 2? And again, it kind of screws Jamin up because look at this void in here. And that's what they exploit here. That's what Dallas exploits here. Jamin gets a little over aggressive, can't react back down. Everyone else is doing their job. They're matching up on the receivers. Look down here at the bottom. You get Cole matching to the back. Excellent job. Everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. They're counting on Jamin to protect that inside. He doesn't get it done, and that's too bad because it leads to a big play. But one of the things about Jamin that I think is important for fans to understand is that he's improving. He's starting to understand different looks. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but this looks like the exact same look. They're going to motion across here, getting that same 2x2 look. They're going to isolate our guy, Jamin, and let's watch how he handles this here, right? He says, all right, I recognize this before. They just did this to me, right? We got number 1 and number 2, but I think in this tight bunch, they might switch these guys up. So let's check it out here. Let's clear that up. In, and then look at that. That's, I think, what makes him special. He is matching a number 1 wide receiver there as a linebacker in lockstep here. He understands. He was able to anticipate that. And again, Payne helps him out there knocking the ball down. But I do believe that if this ball gets out, he's probably knocking this ball down and playing with great vision to the quarterback and in a tight window. And that's him evolving over the course of a game. And again, you see the tremendous athleticism here. Love this play. They're trying to find a different way to get after our guy, Jamin. Multiple ways to exploit linebackers. They motion the running back out from the backfield. Jamin matches. He moves back into the box. The quarterback understands that this is a matchup he wants to exploit. Jamin has the back in coverage here, right? That's the matchup. So how do we exploit that? We motion in. We get the same kind of corner look here, tight split here by the tight end, and we're going to release him. So corner by the tight end, and we're going to release this back on an option route where you can go out, in, or break it across the middle. And what I love here is Jamin identifies that he's in trouble. He knows where his help is. Look at his leverage. Look at his position. He's on the inside portion of this player. He knows he has no help in the middle of the field here. There's nobody here to help him. He has to force this guy to the outside. Again, it's the same look. You see Cole, everybody matching guys outside here. Not a lot of help inside. He gets that. He's patient and says, absolutely do not throw this football because I will pick it off. And that's what you love from the young guy, right? Different formations, different personnels, understanding how to use his athleticism to his advantage. And I think this is a great sign of where this defense is going and where this player is going. I'm super excited to see his progression over the course of the year and see how we can contribute to this team.
Thank you, Logan. Now coming up, the team got some good news this week with the return of running back Brian Robinson Jr. Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus joins us to tell us what it should mean for the offense. And we send London and Santana down to the practice field to check in on the offense and how they're preparing for the Titans. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Command Center. The team welcomed a familiar face back at practice this week as running back Brian Robinson Jr. made his return from the non-football injury list. They will now have 21 days to activate him to the active roster. In 2 preseason games, Robinson recorded 57 yards and 1 touchdown on 14 carries. He will look to help Washington's rushing attack that ranks 15th in the league, averaging 108 yards per game. And joining us now is the host of PFF's Talkin' Ball podcast and lead draft analyst, Mike Renner. Mike, so glad to have you joining us. Some exciting news for Washington as Brian Robinson Jr. can officially come back to practice. What does this mean for the team once he returns to the field?
He's a different kind of back than what they have on the roster right now. You know, that's why they drafted him, right? He's kind of this goal line, tough yardage, short yardage type of runner that's going to maximize what the offensive line gives them. Whereas, and much more NFL ready than Antonio Gibson was. Coming out of Memphis, Antonio Gibson barely he didn't even have 100 carries in his career. Whereas Robinson running behind, pro style system, Alabama offensive line for 5 years there. He should be able to hit the ground running. I hate that I just said that, but he should literally be able to hit the ground and be good from day one.
What do you think draws him to be so much different and complement all the other backs in the room? Like, how does he kind of complete that room?
And so, he's kind of like similarly sized to Antonio Gibson. They're both in the 220s, but running style-wise, Gibson's much more of a search for the home runs type of lane, whereas Robinson's going to stick his helmet right between your shoulder pads as a defender. Like, he's going to try to go through you. He is not going to shy away from contact in the hole. And that's just going to lead to the offense being on schedule more. Maybe he's not going to have a lot of 40, 50 yarders. Maybe he's not going to break off long runs. But when it's 1st and 10, he's probably going to get the 4 or 5 yards that it needs to get you in a favorable down and distance as you're going forward. Whereas they just don't have that guy in the roster right now. This is an offensive line that's kind of maligned this year, but I think it's been better than the hate they've been getting, especially in the run game, to where there are holes to be had. And I think he's going to at least be able to, like I said, keep the offense on schedule.
One aspect that shouldn't be overlooked when it comes to Washington's running backs is their contributions in the pass game. J.D. McKissic ranked 2nd among all running backs in the NFC with 122 receiving yards. And Antonio Gibson is 5th on the list, making Washington the only team with 2 running backs to over 100 receiving yards this season. For more on how the Commanders are preparing for the Titans, let's go down to London and Santana on the practice field. This is our FedEx Field Pass, where now meets next.
Hey, man, it's a special day. I understand it's practice, but a month or so ago, we was talking about a kid who we had high hopes for, and he dealt with something that was tragic, and we was more happy just him to have his life than more to talk about football. But let's talk about Brian Robinson real quick before we get into everything else. He's out here today in pads.
Man, to think that it was just a little over a month ago that, he had this unfortunate situation happen to him, and you mentioned it, just being happy that he's still here with us.
Yeah.
But to be on this field, man, just shows you the type of toughness that he has, the type of person he is.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, Tanner, just watching him go through individuals and out here in the team, run period or whatever, the guy looks great. You didn't tell me something happened to him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think anything happened to him.
I was anticipating him back out here in pads, just to get in the field. I saw him doing some things early in the weeks since he's been out of the hospital, and it was great to see him, being able to have that kind of production, with his injuries. But man, to be saying that he's right now it looks almost full speed right now, so hey, hats off to him, man. I'm looking forward to him. And right now, he's carrying the ball, and that's just, man, that's great to see this guy here, man. But that's a bright spot for this team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thinking about coming off the way we ran the ball against Dallas, and when I watched Brian in preseason and training camp, and I think I shared this with you on several occasions of how special I think he is. And when I talk about a special back, it's his feet. Mm-hmm. The things that he can do in terms of just getting in and out of breaks, creating a little hole, getting for a big back, being 6'2", 230, to be able to get in those creases like a small back and then having that great body length like a guy like Edgerrin James, as you know. Yeah. He reminds me of Frank Gore in terms of his feet. So, those are two Frank will be in the Hall of Fame, and Edgerrin James, not to put any pressure on him, but just when I watch him, he has special characteristics. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like in terms of being able to be more multiple, having him
both of them guys.
And Gibson in the backfield, him and J.D. McKissick in the backfield, and just being able to mix things up and create more problems for the defense.
Yeah, that'll be big, man. And like we said before, man, we're just happy to have him back. A bright spot for the team. Our run game has had its moments already this year. So just to having an added addition, man, I'm high hopes right now.
And speaking of the run game, I thought Nick Martin came in. He got his first start. We haven't really talked a whole lot about him, but he's done a really good job. He did a really good job in that game against the Cowboys. The McKissick run, the 33-yard run down the sideline, Nick Martin does a great job of reach blocking one technique, and it's a difficult block for a center to make. He gets that block, and that allows the running game to get going. Another guy who had a great block on that's in that situation was Sam Cosmi, and unfortunately, he just had thumb surgery, so we won't have him. Cornelius Lucas, he's a veteran. He's played a lot of games for us, but, man, I thought those guys really did a great job in the run blocking aspect this past ball game against the Cowboys.
Yeah, we've been shining a light a little bit on the pass protection and saying, those guys needed a little help in that category, but that's one of the things that has stood out about those guys up front is, being able to work together with some of those double teams and being able to make these holes for these running backs to have the success that they've been having the last couple of weeks. Last week, we had 3 running backs with 40-plus yards, so that's great, and that starts up front. So now we need to get a little bit of that same kind of support in the pass protection game, and I'm sure they will. I know everyone has been hard on them. They're hard on themselves. They're probably their worst critics, but I think that's just an area that we need help at.
Hey, real quick, while we got a little bit of time, the wide receivers, we know Jahan Dotson, he might miss this ball game. Who do you expect to have to step up and fill that void if he's out?
89, he's a guy that I feel that already can be special with all those other guys, and just to know that we have a guy down, he's the big body guy, he's the big body guy that has speed. I might sound like, because he won that number that I once wore, so you might say, nah, Chan, you got a little favoritism.
When you said 89, I thought I literally
talking about myself, huh?
Talking about yourself. We couldn't use
Cam,
you, man.
Sims, man, I think Cam really is going to have a chance to really be special this week, and we already know what the secondary, some of the things that they're lacking. So just to add him, to the puzzle that we already have when it comes to wideouts, I think this is a great week for him to go out there and step in and fill the void.
Yeah, man, but, enough talking about the running backs. We can't wait to see Robinson out here. Obviously, Cam, Sims, if he has to step up, maybe De'Ami Brown. Yeah. All right, back to you, Julie.
In honor of the breast cancer awareness game against the Tennessee Titans this Sunday, the Washington Commanders are offering a special t-shirt and ticket package. Purchase this special offer and receive a free limited edition Command the Cure shirt. All proceeds will benefit the Brim Foundation and the Zeta Foundation. Visit commanders.com/BCA offer to get yours today. When London and Santana join me back in the studio, I'm going to put their knowledge to the test about this week's opponent in a game of stat or fiction. You don't want to miss it. This season, we are celebrating 90 with Dominion National. The last time the Titans came to FedEx Field was Week 7 of the 2014 season. Washington quarterback Colt McCoy provided a spark off the bench in the second half. Connected with Pierre Garçon for 70-yard TD. And kicker Kai Forbath, Cobra Kai, hit the game-winning 22-yard field goal as time expired to snap Washington's 4-game losing streak and give them a 19-17 victory. So let's hope that we can snap this 3-game losing streak on Sunday. We're going to play a little new game now we call Stat or Fiction. I'm going to read off a statistic. You gentlemen tell me if it's true or if it's not, basically, okay?
All right, let's go.
Okay, let's see if some of this is some fake. By the way, nice graphics we have going on here. I appreciate being an elf. Yeah, that's probably the most realistic. Okay, Stat or Fiction. We're going to start with Derrick Henry has never had a 100-yard rushing game against Washington, London.
I feel like that's a stat.
You agree?
Fiction.
It is a stat. In one career game against Washington, he had 81 yards on 21 carries. So just one game to go there. But he's had quite a few 100-yard games. Yeah. Stat or Fiction. Last Sunday was Terry McLaurin's 50th career game. His 3,340 receiving yards are the most through a player's first 50 games in franchise history, Santana.
Stat? I don't know, man. Y'all be giving me these off the wall.
Making you think too much.
Stat.
I'm going stat. It's Terry. I feel like that's a stat.
Yeah, well, we also had Gary Clark. So it's fiction. Terry is only second to Gary Clark. 3,589 yards through the first 50 career games.
Okay.
Gary has that one. Stat or fiction, no player for Washington has recorded more receiving yards against the Titans in a single game than Santana Moss. Come on, Tana. How do you think we do you on this one?
Fiction.
I don't think they would do that to Tana.
Come on now.
I just said fiction.
Come on.
I don't remember
Stat.
having
I'm going stat.
It's a
I'm going stat.
It is a stat. You had 106 yards on November 21st, 2010 in a 1916 victory.
Hey,
okay.
I don't know.
One more here. The
did it,
Titans
I
have
don't
not
even
allowed a
know.
wide receiver to record a 100-plus yard game against them this season. No receivers gone for 100 plus.
Fiction. They give up a lot of yards.
Fiction.
Yeah, 2 times they have had an opponent do that. Okay, there you go. Stat or fiction.
And like I said,
Flash
I
the
will
Hulk.
fail this thing.
I don't even remember the 2010 game.
Bro, I had no clue. I'm
back.
lost.
Yes.
Well, then, nicer that we could stump you on your own records.
I always
and your
suck at
own
this
stats.
stuff. Can you
Yeah,
please
okay.
stop?
Thanks for joining us at Command Center. We'll see you again next time.